Demons. They were the very definition of the calamities of this world, an inescapable absurdity. They deceived humans in all sorts of ways, and by extracting and disposing of their souls, they turned them into living puppets. For those creatures that only saw the need for obedient tools, souls stained with sin were disposable. Those who stole and those who were stolen from. Ironically, both existed in an egalitarian way. And that being the case, for a girl who had everything stolen from her, a struggle to steal everything began. The mysterious sinful spoils. Enticed souls extracted by demons. Sinful spoils are born as these souls are used and abandoned. What kind of stories will be told by these cursed spoils that spread calamity and misfortune? In this simple description of the stained treasures our hero seeks, we learn a lot about what they are. The sinful spoils are magical weapons imbued with the power of the souls extracted from unwitting humans. Each spoil's physical appearance resembles the demon that had a hand in making them, and their mighty allure can corrupt even the most righteous of beings. And as you'll soon learn, the souls stolen to produce these wicked treasures have tragic history all their own. Our story begins in a certain tavern of the underground city.
I feel weird.
Hey you, girl over there, have you heard this one? People are saying that the seeker of sinful spoils has made it all the way to these parts. Huh? You don't know about her? She's a treasure hunter who collects cursed treasures, you see. Rumor has it that for a sinful spoil, she'll even kill her comrades. Everyone who's seen her says the same thing. She's truly a demon. You're asking me if I've seen one of these sinful spoils? No way. I don't want anything to do with those dangerous things. This reminds me, there was a guy saying he saw a weird eye in the ruins to the southeast. Oh, you're leaving already? Diabellstar the Black Witch has just received word of a mysterious relic nestled in the ruins of the divine temple of the Snake Eyes. After leaving the underground city and heading southeast, guided by a faint clue about a sinful spoil, some collapsed ruins appeared. In the background of Diabellstar's art, we can see she is standing within the ruins, poised for battle. The divine temple, where the guardian deity of this land was venerated, had now been twisted by the influence of the sinful spoils of subversion Snake Eye that appeared out of nowhere, turning it into something horrible. The power of the treasure is alluded to in its appearance and card effect. The relic resembles a glaring snake eye and appears to be surrounded by serpent-like tendrils. This is likely a reference to the stone gaze of Medusa. The card effect creates a congruent reference in its ability to move a monster to the opponent's back row, rendering it nothing more than window dressing, similar to the statues created by Medusa. This ruinous power is further demonstrated in the decayed state of the temple. The structure has begun to fall into disrepair, and is now bathed in a cold blue light, broken only by the ominous crimson glow emanating from subversion. Even the tendrils surrounding the sinful spoils have twisted themselves around the stone columns, still desperately trying to hold the temple upright. After mowing down the one-eyed creatures inhabiting this place and reaching the deepest section of the ruins, a massive eye was there, glowing bright red. The very instant that the witch and the grotesque eye met was the signal, announcing the beginning of the hunt. A massive dragon appearing from inside the burning blue flames offered a howl of delight to this first new prey in a long time. The emergence of Flamberge from the stone is captured in startling stare of the Snake Eyes. Here we see the massive head of the dragon rising up from the ground, cloaked in blue flames. We are also treated to a piece of official lore, stating that the beast is a massive dragon born from the sealed sinful spoil. Its appearance was ominous, both resembling and contrasting what it used to be like when it was the guardian deity of this land, and it created new underlings from the blue flames that dropped from its body. If a regular person fell victim to its gaze, they would become unable to move an inch of their body. This once again makes a connection between Medusa and subversion, as well as explains the origin of Oak, Ash, and Birch, the one-eyed creatures slain by Diabellstar just moments ago. It seems the mere presence of a sinful spoil is enough to mutate even a god into a twisted and depraved version of its former self. The massive dragon kept struggling until the very end, dragged along with its underlings into an unexpectedly tough fight by Diabellstar. However, she was ultimately successful at extinguishing its wild azure flames. The Black Witch thought she had succeeded in her objective, but the moment she tried collecting the sinful spoil, countless cracks appeared on its eye. This moment is depicted in original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, as we see the cracks spreading across the surface of the eye as Diabellstar watches on inquisitively. Once completely shattered, a small dragon emerges from the wreckage. This is the birth of Snake Eye Poplar, a mere seedling destined to grow once again into a fierce flaming serpent. After collecting the sleeping Poplar, Diabellstar returned to the underground city that she was using as her base. A sliver of her quarters can be seen in the background of Poplar's art, as we can see notes hanging from the wall and a cluttered desk and bookshelf where the Black Witch commences her studies. The very moment she thought she could spend some time researching Poplar and taking a break until the hunt for the next sinful spoil, the sound of explosions rang and countless headlights pierced through the darkness.
"Hey, Black Witch, we've been waiting for you."
Oh, it's you again, huh? Thus, a fated battle was about to begin. While making her return, the Black Witch was ambushed by a gang of Goblin Bikers, looking to collect on the generous bounty advertised on wanted posters around the city.
"That little fellow the Black Witch is carrying with her looks like one of them sinful spoils from the poster, don't it?"
asked a Goblin Biker, referencing the Sinful Spoils subversion embedded in the forehead of the small dragon. Upon that realization, the goblins set their eyes on the mysterious creature. While the diversion squad distracted the Black Witch, they succeeded in stealing Poplar, who was sleeping soundly and wouldn't wake up even among the explosions. However, their joy was short-lived, for the moment they faced the Black Witch, who was beating up their companions with the face of a demon, their smiles quickly froze in fear. These beginning events are captured in the art of a few cards. In Goblin Biker Grand Entrance, we can see the gang of goblins watching on as an annoyed Diabellstar returns home with the small Poplar sitting on her head. The wanted poster mentioned also gives us a great piece of world building. The art of Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils, on initial observation, looks like a standard wanted poster, only obscured by an unintelligible mess of symbols. But on closer inspection, these symbols are actually a fully fleshed out alphabet, and the poster reads from top to bottom, $10 million reward, Sinful Spoils Hunter, dead or alive. The dead portion of the bottom text is circled, with a vandal writing dead, dead, dead beneath it, implying she is seen as a threat, as hinted at during her initial run-in with a tavern patron. In fact, the original OCG name of the card is just the Sinful Treasure Hunter Demon, once again calling to attention the title of demon given to the Black Witch by those aware of her malicious enterprise. Sensing the impending danger, their leader Gabunga went for the ultimate gamble. He removed the shackles of Goblin's crazy beast, a super dangerous magical beast they managed to catch somehow that was kept sealed in the wharf, yet none of them had managed to tame it. The beast, rampaging with no concern for friend or foe, was apparently storing a powerful magic in its body for some reason. Poplar, either sensing that magic or because of the uproar of the goblins, awakened from its nap. Poplar, having just awakened on an empty stomach, challenged the beast, which carried delicious Sinful Spoils magic within it, to a very literal eat-or-be-eaten contest. With no regard for the difference between their sizes, Poplar absorbed the whole beast, as shown in Sinful Spoils' struggle. But something was off. Before anyone even realized it, Poplar transformed into a great flaming demon, Snake-Eyed Diabellstar. The Black Witch shackled the raging beast, and of all the things she could possibly do, she flung it towards Gabunga and the others with full force. At that moment, it was her who was truly like a hurricane. This encounter is recorded across a few Goblin Biker spells and traps. The moment the goblins spotted Diabellstar with Poplar and matched them to the posters hung around the city is shown in Grand Bash. We see the moment the goblins succeed in capturing Poplar in dramatic Snake-Eye chase, with the now angry Diabellstar in close pursuit. Grand Stampede is the moment Crazy Beast is unleashed, running rampant across all in its vicinity. We also get a closer look at Arciella, hung from the waist of the Black Witch as it begins to charge up. Then the aftermath of Poplar's transformation, portrayed in Goblin Biker Grand Pileup. This is an image of Super Saiyan Poplar leashed in chains by Diabellstar, perched in its hand, as it lays waste to the goblins surrounding them. A band of outlaws headquartered on the side of a tower that stands in the underground city. Goblins from all walks of life gathered around, following their leader Gabunga. They desperately tried to tame the magical beasts that roamed about, so that they could spend days customizing them as their favorite ride. They primarily acted for money, and have tried countless times to challenge Diabellstar for the bounty on her head, only to be beaten to a pulp. Since they have given up on defeating Diabellstar, they risked their lives trying to snatch the various treasures she brought with her. Keeping in mind their code of blood, they called the Goblin Biker's motto, they kept revving the engines of their souls. And this marks the end of the official story, though small notes on a few cards are littered throughout. So far, we know that the Goblin Bikers exist as a minor threat to Diabellstar, constantly looking to steal her treasures, yet always failing. The goblins we've met in-game so far all ride on the backs of cybernetically enhanced animals. We know Doug on a boar, Mean Merciless on a cobra, Boom Mock on a saber-toothed tiger, Clattersploder on a roadrunner, and Big Gabunga on a cat. But there's still one more unnamed goblin that appears in Crisis, Breakout, and Gone Wild. This goblin is dressed in green and seems to be accompanied by a mole with a drill fastened to its face. Oh wait, another one is making its way over. Everyone, please welcome Troika Gruyere, riding atop their lumbering tortoise. Gruyere is described as 3 powerful goblins that have been called Troika due to their amazing accomplishments. But because they are quite slow, no one has seen them on the battlefield. After their latest defeat at the hands of Diabellstar and Poplar, while fleeing, their parting remark was,
If Troika had been here, you'd be so over.
I guess we'll never know. The 2 most important introductions made are those of our main characters, Diabellstar and Poplar. The origin of the Black Witch's name gives us some insight on her character. Diabellstar is a reference to Belle Starr, an American outlaw associated with the James Younger gang. The fate of Belle has become her greatest claim to fame. Just days before her 41st birthday, she was riding home one evening on her beloved horse, but would never arrive. She was instead found the next day, dead, having suffered shotgun wounds to the back, neck, shoulder, and face. Her killers are unidentified to this day, and the list of suspects is plentiful. Much like our Black Witch, Belle Starr caused many problems with many people. Diabellstar is also an outlaw in her own right, exploring the lands in search of the Sinful Spoils. Several notes are made surrounding her concept art as well as in the official lore. Here she is described as a treasure hunter who wore a black outfit and could control magic. Her lack of mercy vanquishing enemies while gathering sinful spoils earned her the moniker of Demon, as noted by the wanted poster bearing her face. By nature, it should have been impossible for humans to use the sinful spoils, however she managed it through a special spell. Her past was a total mystery. She also wears her winnings proudly. In the concept art for her card, a note can be seen explaining that the green parts of her dress are meant to signify the presence of a sinful spoil. She's equipped with 2. The batwing skirt around her waist that transforms into the scythe, Arciella, and the claw on her shoulder that becomes the great wolf, Silvera. These 2 weapons are also given a bit of backstory. By unleashing the powers of the sinful spoils of doom, Arciella, it transforms into the great winged sickle death scythe, a weapon that can cut through anything. When the sinful spoils of betrayal, Silvera, is activated, it transforms into the great demon wolf Hellhound, an underling of the Black Witch that crunches everything. The art of these 2 cards chronicles the battle between Flamberge Dragon and Diabellstar. Arciella shows the Black Witch using the Death Scythe to destroy ash, oak, and birch, while Silvera is an image of the Hellhound latching onto the head of Flamberge with its mighty jaws. As for Poplar, a small note accompanies the story. A mysterious creature born from the original Sinful Spoil. It was the first time Diabellstar was perplexed by something, but she ended up simply collecting it as a Sinful Spoil. As of late, it seemed like the magic items around her became less effective. Maybe it was her imagination, or maybe her lack of sleep. In the concept art for Poplar, we see it's originally a dark red color, and only becomes the familiar pink after absorbing magical energy. This piece of art also does a great job of characterizing the relationship between Poplar and Diabellstar. We see multiple scenes of Poplar hanging out in Diabellstar's home, sleeping on a shelf and attempting to absorb a beer held by a passed-out Black Witch. Based on this, and their run-in with Crazy Beast, it's safe to assume that Poplar is able to absorb the magical energy around it, making itself stronger. It would also seem that Poplar is a reborn form of Flamberge Dragon, while the remaining Snake Eye Level 1 monsters are just minions to Flamberge. In another note given to us about Oak, it is described as an underling born from the azure flames enveloping the Flame Dragon. It has only one instinct, to mercilessly attack any enemy that tries to harm its motherly sinful spoil. Given the relationship of oak to ash and birch, they are likely all of equal temperament and purpose. The names of the Snake Eye Level 1 monsters are taken from Agle, Queen of Serpents, a Lithuanian folktale written in 1837 with themes of human reptile and human tree transformations. In the tale, the queen's children were transformed into ash, birch, oak, and aspen trees. This occurs only after her husband, the grass snake prince, is killed by the family of Agle, all wielding scythes. They are only able to locate the prince after his timid young daughter is pressured into providing them with the summoning chant needed to gain his audience. In her great despair, the Queen of the Serpents turns her fragile, fearful daughter into a quaking aspen tree. Her sons are then changed into oak, ash, and birch trees, followed by their mother changing herself into a spruce. The sons' transformations are congruent with our minions, however Poplar is different, yet still named after a tree. This becomes relevant as we get into the Azamina section of this story. The undead nature of the other three is also portrayed through the name birch is given in the OCG, that being white birch, with white being spelled the Skull Servant way, indicating that they are sentient beings from beyond the grave. The use of scythes to claim the life of Igle's beloved husband is also paralleled with Arciella being used to destroy the Evil Eye underlings. This continues the theme of our story being inspired by myth and folklore centered around family betrayal. From this point on, the story only exists in art form, cluing us in on the backstory of our main character, and the trials and tribulations she has and will face. Diabellstar has a sister, Diabellze, shown in her own card to be dressed in white and blue, in opposition to the black and red of Diabellstar. While this would normally connote a sense of purity or goodness, a closer look at the small details hidden in her art tells us otherwise. The lining of her jacket is flooded by a sea of fanged mouths set agape and deformed eyes peering out. We also see she carries a sinful spoil of her own. Morian can be seen as a black feathered wing arm in place of where her human arm should be. This treasure is different from the rest. While the other sinful spoils are their own being, sentient in their own right, and merely carried by the user, Morian is not. It will assimilate entirely into the body of the wearer, becoming one and the same, demonstrating a higher degree of commitment to the power that it holds. The true nature of Diabellze is portrayed through her facial expressions across many pieces of art, often sporting a sadistic smirk or shock in response to an unexpected difficulty. While she appears to represent the better of the two sisters, we will soon learn that couldn't be further from the truth. Her name also provides us with some additional insight. The original sin keeper herein refers to the original sin of man described in Christian theology. In this story, God tells Adam they may eat anything except the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eve is later tricked into eating from the tree by a serpent, thus disobeying God and creating the inherent sin that all humans are born into after inheriting it from Adam and Eve. The fruit described in this story was not specifically identified. It would be referred to as a fig in early Christian art, before a Latin translation using the word malice to describe the fruit linked it to its most common iconography. Malice can mean bad or evil, but it can also mean an apple. When taking a closer look at the cane Diabellze carries, an apple ornament can be seen gleaming atop the handle. The childhood shared by Diabellstar and Diabellze is described throughout many of the White Forest cards. Astalar and Elzet are Diabellstar and Diabellze as young girls. They wear colors matching their current garb and display body language reminiscent of what we have come to know of the witches so far. Astalar looks closed off and shy, while Elzet appears far more confident and jovial. The surroundings of each sister's environment also hint at the story to come. Both sisters stand amongst trees with crimson-red fruits marked with gold lines dangling from the branches, another reference to the forbidden fruit. Astalar's surroundings seem peaceful as she stands amidst a snowy wood. Elzet, however, is surrounded by monstrous phantoms spilling from her bag in the top left. The supposedly pure sister is destined to bring about destruction. Each of the White Forest spells and traps tell us a fragment of the story regarding the corruption of the White Woods where the two grew up. These cards are drawn in the style of a shadow puppet show, with small figures at the bottom casting the shadows that illustrate the story onto a large canvas. Judging by the events currently revealed, Scourge of the White Forest probably comes first. This image depicts the two young witches watching on as Diabellze, Queen of the White Forest, consumes one of the sinister fruits, corrupting her. The two children appear to be shouting in protest at the bottom left corner of the image. Tales of the White Forest is the result of the corruption of Diabellze by the tainted fruit. Here we see Sylvie and Rucia standing before the two young witches, guarding them from the shadow of Diabellze. This presents the idea that Sylvie and Ruchia were friends or family of the young sisters and became their guardians after losing Diabelle to the power of the Sinful Spoil. The reason I believe that Diabelle is the mother of Diabellstar and Diabellze goes beyond their names being similar. The two sisters each have heterochromia, with their eye colors mismatched. Diabellstar has one green eye, while Diabellze has one purple eye. The Queen of the White Forest has one green eye and one purple eye. This mismatched eye color is highlighted further by the purple and green energy surrounding Diabelle. Further still, the sisters wear opposing black and white clothing, while their mother wears both black and white. This also would explain the motivation behind the two witches' search for the Sinful Spoils, as they seek to grow strong enough to either save their mother or destroy her. Sinful Spoils of the White Forest shows us that Ruchia and Sylvie were not strong enough to protect the young girls. Diabelle has succeeded in capturing her children as they lie unconscious beneath her. Tears of green and purple drip from the eyes of the monstrous Diabelle looming above them, flowing into each sister. The 7 eyes of the hallowed Azamina encircle the head of the queen. The image as a whole suggests that the queen is mournful of the state of her soul, but cannot stray from the control of the Azamina. This is when the sisters' paths begin to diverge. In Susurrus of the Sinful Spoils, Astellar and Elzet stand huddled together amidst the vines of the forest, holding one of the fruits that took their mother. Elzet seems eager to eat the fruit, while a forlorn Astellar holds her hands back, trying to stop her. In the concept art for Diabellze, it's noted that the White Witch is a born liar, suggesting what her final decision will be. Even the name of the card hints at this decision, with Susurrus being Latin for whisper, once again referencing the story of the original sin, mimicking the moment the serpent whispered the words of Satan into the ear of Eve, encouraging her to partake in the fruit. A comparable scene unfolds in Beware the White Forest, as we see the shadowy hand of Diabelle reaching through the forest towards the small white figure at the bottom, seemingly beckoning Elzet to join her. This call from Diabelle worked, as Elzet is transformed into Azamina Elzet of the White Forest. The young witch is now shown to be entangled in thorns, with growths resembling the fruit adorning her body and clothes. Behind her stands a ghostly dragon, mounted by 3 headless bodies with flames erupting from their necks. The dragon has a similar appearance to the spirits seen surrounding young Elzet on her original card. The actions of Azamina Elzet are outlined in 2 cards so far. Play the Diabelle, wherein we see Elzet unleashing an attack with her dragon on a figure that appears to be an uncorrupted form of Moa Regina. Then the immediate aftermath of this encounter in Sinful Spoils Awakening, where we see a mournful Azamina Elzet surrounded by a field of ruin. In the background, we see the same figure from before, only this time her head has begun to glow red as she transforms into Azamina Moa Regina. The fate of Sylvie and Ruchia can also be gathered from art across the many archetypes. In Deception of the Sinful Spoils, Sylvie and Ruchia are bound in thorns, surrounded by the ghastly shadows of the creatures that would soon overtake them. This message is reinforced in Woes of the White Forest, as our final puppet show thus far depicts the hand of Diabelle looming over the 2 guardians. Only this time they have been transformed, now existing as the corrupted Arciella, Sinister Soul of the White Forest, and Silvera, Wolf Tamer of the White Forest, both having been imbued by the same power as the demons that live within the Sinful Spoils carried by Diabellstar. The life of Diabellstar following Elzet's decision is also vaguely alluded to in Like a Diabelle. This art depicts a middle age between Astellar and the Black Witch, with split frames of her surviving and fending for herself between the 2 ages. These also seem to be the moments she obtains her Sinful Spoils. The black and green wolves in the bottom frame are reminiscent of the hellhound on her shoulder. There's also a glass heart filled with green liquid in her right hand, likely representing a yet unseen Sinful Spoil. The sisters are each motivated to gather the powerful spoils for their own reasons. Diabellstar lost everything she held dear, losing her mother to the Azamina and her sister to a blind pursuit to return her. Diabellze, on the other hand, decided long ago that she was willing to meddle in whatever dark magic might be necessary to complete this rescue mission. The 2's opposing viewpoints caused them to clash whenever their paths would cross. One such encounter is recorded in the art of Sinful Spoils of Slumber, Morian. After Diabellstar successfully recovered Poplar, Diabellze recognized the great power that lay within the tiny dragon, and wished to take it for herself. In this art, we can see that she succeeded in accomplishing this goal, as she fends off a desperate Diabellstar before making off with the sleeping Poplar. The name Morian also references the darkness that lies within the heart of Diabellze. Morian is derived from the name Morrigan, an Irish goddess of war and death, making this a fitting weapon for Diabellze to carry. The name is often translated to Phantom Queen, and the black feathered appearance of the Sinful Spoil alludes to Morrigan taking the form of a crow. This capture seems to occur immediately following Diabellstar's latest encounter with the Goblin Bikers. In Sinful Spoils Subdual, we see a crazed Diabellze standing behind Poplar as it reverts back to its small, sleeping form following its battle as Snake-Eyed Diabellstar. From here, the story becomes a bit messy, as we are likely still missing a few cards that will fill in the order of events with future waves of support. After capturing Poplar, Diabellze now feels strong enough to go face the evil that awaits in the White Forest. Azamina Determination is an image of Diabellze walking into the forest in search of this evil. The OCG name of this card, Hamartia, is a Greek literary term referring to the part of a Greek tragedy where a character's fatal flaw leads to their downfall. This is also the word for sin in Christian theology. In this case, the fatal flaw of Diabellze is her determination to finish her task no matter the cost. The greatest cost present can be seen hidden away within her cloak, as we can see the small Poplar being led to this final battle. It doesn't take long for this plan to go south. In Azamina Unleashing, Diabellze and Poplar have come face to face with Queen of the Azamina, now caught within her grasp. I believe the Azamina monsters are the result of prolonged exposure to the hallowed Azamina. It demonstrates its ability to twist the lands around it by being the source of the tainted fruit hanging from the trees. When the power became even more concentrated, such as in Azamina Elzet, those same fruits can be seen now sprouting from the body of the young girl. Over time, these mutations intensify, contorting the original being into an embodiment of a demon associated with the Sinful Spoils. Diabellze, Queen of the White Forest, entered the hallowed land, and Queen of the Azamina returned. This is evidenced by clues scattered around each card. Both are illusion monsters with the same level, attack, and defense. They are drawn in poses that mirror one another, and both have the word Yoma in their OCG names, meaning apparition. What we don't know for certain is if Diabellze was aware of what her mother had become before standing face to face with the evil queen. This would also explain the terror on her face in the art of Azamina Unleashing. This same logic applies to Rushia and Sylvie after being captured by Diabellze. Rushia would eventually turn into Azamina Muarcielago, and Sylvie the dreadful Azamina Ilia Sylvia. This fate is apparent from the start, as twisted shadows of the demons that would overtake them can be seen surrounding them in the art of deception of the Sinful Spoils. Their names are used to accentuate their physical appearance. Murcielago is the Spanish word for bat, with an additional space added in the word to connect the demon to Arciela. This clearly references the bat-like appearance of the demon, but the bat is also a symbol in Christianity used to represent uncleanliness and impurity. Ilia Sylvia gives us a much greater insight on the potential outcome of this story. In the OCG, this card is named Rhea Silvera, based on Rhea Silvia, the mother of Romulus and Remus. This Roman myth tells the tale of a pair of brothers born to Rhea Silvia, fathered by Mars, the god of war. Prior to this birth, Rhea's father, Nimitor, was usurped by the current king, Amulius. When Amulius became aware of the birth of male children with royal blood, he ordered them to be taken away and killed, for fear that they may pose a threat to his seat on the throne. The boys were dropped in the river Tiber, but were saved by a she-wolf who raised them as one of her own. This explains why the Sinful Spoil transforms into a giant wolf, and why all of Sylvie's corrupted forms takes the shape of a two-headed wolf. The boys would eventually be found and adopted by a shepherd. They would be raised on the farm, tending to their flock, oblivious to their true identities. They would eventually become involved in a dispute between Amulius and the former king Nimitor, still unaware that the latter was their grandfather. In the end, Amulius was killed, and Nimitor reclaimed his rightful seat atop the throne. The boys would set off to the Seven Hills to begin construction on a new city, but began to argue about which hill to build upon. They settled on leaving it to the gods through a contest of augury. Whichever hill would have the larger flock of birds fly above it would be chosen. Remus claimed to have seen 6 birds atop his hill, but Romulus claimed to have seen 12, winning him divine approval. The dispute continued until Remus was killed by his own brother. Romulus, undeterred, would continue to build his city, which would eventually become Rome. We have many similar story beats between our sisters and the brothers of myth. In both stories, the children are deprived of their mother at the hands of an evil force. Both pairs of children are raised by the wilds, and both seek to right a kingdom in disarray. If we are to take this as foreshadowing, we might expect to see one sister die at the hand of the other, while returning Diabellze to her rightful state and restoring the White Forest. Another clever name scheme is used with Azamina Moa Regina to explain the purpose of the Azamina. We know nothing about her existence apart from the fragments of interaction shown between her and Azamina. We do know she is the embodiment of the Sinful Spoil Morian due to her black-feathered appearance, but her name is a combination of Moa, a flightless bird, and Regina, the Latin word for queen. Having her art so focused on her bird-like features almost distracts the viewer from noticing the rest of her body, as a long serpentine tail extends far off into the distance behind her. The bird wings are a mockery of the dove, the symbol of the Holy Spirit in Christianity, while the symbol of the devil sits just below. This may also reference the dispute between the birds seen by each brother, with the story implying that one of them has lied in order to gain favor. Likewise, the Azamina will lie and deceive until they control the entirety of the White Forest and all that live within it. In Goblin Biker Grand Crisis, we see that our heroes have been imprisoned by Azamina Soul Erisichthan. Their escape is chronicled in Goblin Biker Grand Breakout, where we see our unnamed goblin drilling through the steel bars, and Goblin Bikers Gone Wild, the moment the goblins burst through the cage to freedom surrounded by yet another explosion. Alongside the goblins, Diabellstar is now free, and things are beginning to ramp up. The imprisonment of the Goblin Bikers and Diabellstar was at the hands of Azamina Soul Erisichthan. The name of this card presents an interesting perspective on the story. Erisichthan is the name of the king of Thessaly in Greek mythology. In the story of Erisichthan, the king chopped down a sacred tree and was cursed by the goddess Demeter for his actions. He would suffer a ceaseless hunger for the rest of his life that would never fade no matter how much he ate. Fittingly, the body of the Azamina seems to be made up of tree limbs, symbolizing the crime that he committed. It's no accident that Poplar, the object of everyone's desire in this story, is named after a tree. Though small and innocent now, Poplar was born of evil. It's also no coincidence that Diabellstar had to cut down oak, ash, and birch on her way to Sinful Spoils subversion. None of our characters are without sin. You've also likely noticed that each of the Azamina fusions has a counterpart, with each being present in card form either as its own monster, or in the case of Moa Regina, as a secondary character in the background of spells and traps interacting with our main characters. We've seen all of their original forms apart from Soul Erisichthan. We know he stands parallel to Crazy Beast in level, battle stats, and their dark typing, but they have no similarity in appearance, and for good reason. The rest of the Azamina corruptions take on the physical characteristics of the Sinful Spoils that have tainted them, but if you'll remember, Crazy Beast swallowed its Sinful Spoil and seems to just channel its magical energy rather than work in tandem with it. That being the case, we don't yet know what the Sinful Spoil swallowed by the beast looks like, unless we have actually seen it before. Upon their escape, Diabellstar and the Goblin Bikers teamed up. In the art of Kick-Ass Goblin Bikers, we can see the Black Witch has helped to finally tame Crazy Beast, as the Bikers and the Witch ride atop the beast while it drags Troika Gruyere behind it, finally solving the problem of their mightiest warrior never making it to battle on time. No encounter with Soul Erisichthan beyond our hero's imprisonment has been shown. My suspicion is that Diabellstar will fight and defeat the king, unlocking the power of his Sinful Spoil, and making her strong enough to face her final test. Diabellstar does eventually face and defeat Mu Arcielago and Ilia Silvia, but there's no context as to when this showdown occurs. Their meeting begins in Azamina Debtors, as the Black Witch stands ready for battle against the two demons. The aftermath is shown to us in Guilt of the Sinful Spoils, where we see Diabellstar stabbing Mu Arcielago with the butt of the Death Scythe, while the Hellhound stomps on Ilia Silvia. With the defeat of the Lesser Azamina, the stage is set for our final battles. After being captured, Diabellze makes a desperate attempt to fight back against the Queen by fusing herself with the sleeping Poplar, giving rise to Snake Eye's Damned Dragon, a beast similar to Flamberge, now outfitted in Diabellze's trademark blue and white, and the feathers of Morian overtaking the tips of its wings. In response, Queen of the Azamina has merged herself with the hallowed Azamina, the source of the evil magic coursing through the White Forest, and has become Saint Azamina, a monstrous mouth encircled in razor-sharp teeth. Only the torso and head of the Queen can be seen jutting out from its center, as wild, thorny tongues lash out in all directions. Now we sit on the precipice of a violent struggle. Diabellze and the Queen will clash in their most powerful forms. Will Diabellstar make it in time to save her sister, or will she only find the ruinous aftermath, now forced to save the White Forest alone? How do you think this ends? Who do you think will survive?